Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt, and you have reached Venus Unplugged. And what we do here is it's all about the archetype of Venus in our life, in our psyche, in heaven and earth, across the board. So this is a place where the wounded heart can find some inspiration so that we can accept the task of becoming the wise heart, from wounded to wise, which is the purpose of so much of the human experience. We get wounded because we don't understand, or we need to expand our capacity. The heart has a huge capacity for not only love, but for wisdom. And we got to get something out of it. We may not get the object of our love, but we certainly can get some wisdom, which we can keep for eternity. So today, this new moon in Aquarius, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about some archetypal or archangels. These are the invisible forces that are around us and help us and are through us. So on this new moon in Aquarius and Chinese New Year, it is very auspicious. So the way that you spend this day can indicate what the year is going to be like. So we try to give ourselves one leg up and wear a little red and eat some mandarin oranges and have some fun with friends. Ritual is about beauty, right? And love. And that's today. So I want to discuss or explore the Archangel Metatron. Now, Metatron is a very, very, as archangels are, powerful, and they do assist the human condition. So, Metatron, he appears as actually, angels are non-gender, but we'll just, so we said he, but they're non-gender. So Metatron appears as the most earthly of the archangels. And he was once a wise and virtuous man who God took up into heaven. And he's richly attired. Oh, Jesus, somebody tied my tongue this morning. And holds a pen in one hand as he records the deeds in the book of life. He has the ability to help us know the true measure of things. So those are what we value, the true measure of what we value. So in the angelic realm, this is the archangel of the heaven of form. And his heavenly function is, as I said before, is the recorder of the book of life and scribe for all our deeds. So that would include what in the Western esoteric tradition is called the Akashic records. That is the records of our souls. It's probably one big kind of cosmic computer where it's all being recorded. Not tit for tat, but just cause and effect. So this is the one who's doing all the recording. All right. So his gifts for Earth is he helps us find the proper measure for all we do. He acts as a witness to the good we do and the love we give. And he helps us realize our potential as loving and worthwhile human beings. Not bad to start the day with. Not bad for and I chose this particular archangel because it is also the angel of Aquarius. Each sign is ruled by an angelic realm. So if you know your sun sign and your moon sign, these are your personal guardians. And I'll give you the list when I finish with Metatron. So Metatron is the only angel within the heavenly spheres who was once human. He was known as Enoch and was the seventh patriarch after Adam. It was written that he walked with God and was taken up into heaven, where he was made an archangel. And there is speculation in the Jewish scripture that he is the Shinokin, right? The angel who led the children of Israel out of the wilderness. And it is thought that he too was Metatron, who stopped Abraham from sacrificing his son Isaac to God. So Metatron is also known as the first and last of the archangels and is variously called the Chancellor of Heaven. I love these names. They just evoke all sorts of imagination. And the Angel of the Covenant, and also the King of Angels. His heavenly function is to supervise the recording of all our deeds in the Book of Life. So somebody's keeping track, even if you're not, which can be encouraging or not, depending on where you've been tracking. So he's charged with sustaining human life and acts as the bridge between the divine and mankind. So he's the conduit. He's your go-to person. And see, the whole thing about angel magic is that the angels, who obviously are closer to the divine, acts as our conduit. We ask them for their help. And they will do that because that's why they were created. So it's nice to know we have, a team to assist us and bring us closer, and that our prayers, our sincere prayers, and the tasks and the sacrifices that we make for ourselves and for others, we've always got to give or pay in some way. There always needs to be an exchange. And people don't understand that. This is why we sacrifice. This is why people tithe. This is why you pay for services. There needs to be this exchange. It's important because one needs to sacrifice. It's kind of spiritual etiquette. And the sacrifice can be up to you. It's not necessarily money. Okay, although that is probably the most convenient exchange, where we tithe, or we can also do it, like say today, since it's a new moon, and if you are living in the cities or something, or you see a street person or something, give them $1, and then make a tenfold return on it. Because anything that we give that doesn't have to be given, it is within spiritual law and etiquette that we can request a tenfold return because we are helping one of the children of God. And so it's good to know the esoteric and cosmic laws and then work them. That's how that works. Right? So he's charged with sustaining life and acts as the bridge between the divine and mankind. And we seek counsel from him by asking him to help us find the proper measure for every action that we're taking and that we take in our lives. At one level, this means helping us find the balance. Balance is a big, big thing, right? Balance between what we give and what we keep for ourselves. And that's thought, word, and deed. People don't realize that all that we do is towards our wholeness, and we need that balance. If we need, and we also need the balance of shadow and light. If we too much light, we're realizing, and that's a huge realization that whatever good we do, we're also creating shadow, which is hard for if we're just one-sided. So we take our time and we don't meddle because, our good may be somebody's disaster. We may think it's a great idea, but it could totally mess with someone's reality, or it's not what they really want, or they can't handle it. Can't give people too much gold. Can't take it. Sometimes we hold the gold for somebody. And then when they're ready, we give it back to them. And that's a big part in loving, whatever the nature of loving is, because there's so much projection going on. And it's not that the projection isn't real. It's real. It comes up within us, and we see some aspect, very often either than an angel or a devil. Even the devil is an angel, And we hold that, and then when the person can't live that potential, we get very disappointed. But that's usually the beginning of intimacy, when all that stuff cracks and falls down, right? Because we see the potential, or we see the potential that was within ourselves, and it's too difficult to contain. I mean, to really contain love, it is so fierce and so profound. Most of us really don't want it. It's a burden. And it's also a tremendous amount of work to exercise, to experience the kind of agony. See, somebody's got my tongue this morning. Is that METATRON who's got this? The agony and the ecstasy, the power of all that. So when we call on the Archangel METATRON, we want this balance. We want the wise counsel. We can also do active imagination, where we get two sides of something, the shadow and light, and then they have a conversation. I take objects because I'm visual, so I'll get two little dolls or objects that may represent something that are the opposites, and then they have this conversation. And very often you realize, like, whoa, they're within one another all the time. There is no split. We're making the split, or the ego likes to split everything in half because that's how it keeps its realm. Because it's a loss. Loving is a loss to the ego because it doesn't have anything to hold on to. So, at the proper measure for every one of our actions in our lives, which is huge maturity, and at one level, this means helping us find a balance. This enables us to maintain well-defined boundaries and keep a clear sense of the self. So it's necessary if you're to succeed in fulfilling your potential within in the world of form. That's the earth. Angels, there's different spheres and realms, and it's a whole lot of information. And for those that are truly interested, it's a great deal of study and practice and honoring, but it's worthwhile. So METATRON can help us find the proper measure in love, in work, in recreation, so that we live in a balanced and healthy way, and our lives are rich in harmony and serenity. And he will also be a witness to the good we do, perhaps those acts of love or kindness not recognized by others. And that is true. So often people, just by their very nature, are doing something so kind, and we're not paying attention, or we don't realize the sacrifice, because then we're not making the sacrifice. It's not pinching us, but it is pinching them. If someone, is lack of funds, let's say, but they work and they save a little bit of money and they get you a gift. So it may not be an expensive gift, but it's an actual sacrifice. sacrifice. They gave from their not having, which is greater in many ways than somebody who has a kind of infinite supply and just gets a gift. So we look at these beautiful acts of kindness where a person will share. And very often I find that people who have less, very often that act of kindness is just part of their nature because they know what it is not to have. They know the pain of that and very often the humiliation of not having. And because they're sensitive to that kind of suffering, they don't want another to suffer. Very often, with parents, they don't want the children to suffer. Now, sometimes they can carry that act a little too far because we need a little pinch to grow. If we can't feel something or know its value, we will just repeat that again and again on the earth. So Metatron is the archangel that is going to help us understand that value or know. Or let's say you've sacrificed something and or an act of kindness and it went like, yeah, okay, whatever. Or an act of love isn't recognized or honored or not reciprocated, all right? Or unrequited love. That one's a doozy. You truly love someone who's just not into it. And the pain of that. But with the help of Metatron, you can start to understand. Although that love may not be reciprocated, it's still of great value. And when we remove the ego from it and we just know that's part of your task, to love that person, even though it's not going to come back. Now, I'm not saying to hang in a state of constant heartache, but we can love and disengage. But very often when love doesn't come back, there's the wars, where we want to just destroy because they don't love me back. Well, if you take the ego out of it and just say, no, that's my task. To love this person who may be unconscious on some level and doesn't have the slightest idea. And we always get hooked up in this unrequited love, or if it's an abusive love. I find it so fascinating because so much is the question is like, why is he doing that, or why is she doing that? We want to know the why, rather than looking at the pathology and going like, wow, I can love this person, but I need to love them from a distance because this is going to hurt my soul. But we keep on going back to the abuse or the abusive. Call on Metatron to help you separate. You can love, but you don't have to be in the same room. Or you can love, but be at a distance. Sometimes you just can't. You love. The heart loves what the heart loves. But that doesn't mean that we allow our heart or our souls to be wounded by someone with bad manners. Or just can't. They're whether they're young souls, baby souls. An old soul can love a younger soul, but a young soul cannot love an older soul. They can't comprehend it. And very often in life, that's what happens. You can feel an enormous heart for someone, and then they behave badly. But it's soul appropriate. They're in the terrible twos of soul development, and they're going to act like the terrible twos. It's not against you. It's being able to, and Metatron is the one that will help us recognize that. Oh, I get it. Or sometimes I'll see an old soul is born into a young soul family or a young soul parenting. That's a doozy. But once we understand, they really are doing the best they can with what they've got. that is their 100%. But if you're an older soul, you'll figure out a way how to get past that one, because the help is always sent. So people don't always mean to wound, or we can not even realize that we can trigger somebody's post-traumatic stress. They just flip out about something. They can't stop it. It's such a wound. And if we step back and look and go like, oh, we see so much about it with wars or the post-traumatic stress, and people go, it happens and not just in war. Childhood could be a war. And for those of you that have ever read The Drama of the Gifted Child, or if you want to ruin your weekend reading that one, it's a very painful book, but it also has so much truth in it. It's about when narcissistic parents raise their talented children and then take credit for it. And so very often the person has such a deep trauma but that too is also the work. Because no matter what happens or how it comes about, we are ultimately responsible for healing our own heart and discovering the power, the Venusian power for the love and for beauty. Beauty heals. I'm not talking about fashion. I'm talking about beauty. Although moments of fashion can be very, very helpful. So this is part of what METATRON will bring to your world, and particularly on this new moon. So we can pray to the Archangel METATRON to guide our efforts and to help us find the right measure for our output and our activities. And we can ask METATRON in our meditation to assist us in knowing when enough is enough. When do we disengage? When do we end it or begin it? Timing is so important. Or when do we need to do more for ourselves or for others? This takes thought, and I know how complicated our lives are, how time has shrunk, how fast everything is going. But if we take a minute or two and just question, or, even at the end of the day, we just go through kind of the high points of our day, and we give it some real consideration. Was that the best way to handle something, or could I have spoken from my heart and not my head? Because it's so interesting when that gerbil within is running around, and it's like, man, didn't I just think this 30 seconds ago? And it's like, it's going all around. Set it free, let it run out, okay? Get it out of your head. And then, whatever going on in your head, just feel it move into your heart. Because the heart is the place of wisdom, not the head. The Egyptians knew that. And so when we drop it into the heart, when we feel it through the heart, it's going to speak in a completely different way. Now also, right below the heart, the solar plexus is called the second brain. In many ways, that's where the Holy of Holy guides us. That's the instinctual, and certainly it's a form of psychism, where it sees in a different way, or, particularly children are very aware of this, that they respond and they get stomach aches and everything is in the stomach, and you can't do something because your stomach hurts or whatever. And as adults, if we became much more aware of that solar plexus and the stomach and that thumper, we'd never be able to eat when we're upset, because it really does hurt that much. And sometimes the solar plexus we're in such a tizzy, and we'll try to comfort it with food, and of course then our digestion and everything goes off, and then the colon goes off, and the esoteric, the colon is the place where all our past lives are held. So, we really are made of this cosmic dust and this love beyond love, this Venusian energy, and we can understand why Venus is so feared. Because it's not just about pretty things. It's really about the fierceness of beauty. It's why we create art. We can't help it. We must. And also why people destroy it, which is a little hard for me to accept, but they do, because it is unbearable for them. Because if we can't feel connected, that's the bottom line in envy. When we encounter envy, the person who's experiencing being envious, they can't feel the connection to the goodness. It's like, that's what Cinderella is about. What Cinderella do? She was a schmuck. She did all the work. She did everything, right? But she did it with this love and this sense of self. She was connected to the fairy godmother. And that's what envy notices. It's like, why are they having such a good time? Meanwhile, she's scrubbing floors, and she's certainly trying to get to the Grail Castle, so to speak. But she does it lovingly. And that's another thing with when there's too much goodness, when it's just about good and light, you're going to provoke people's envy. They're going to want to wipe that smile right off your face. So Metatron is the one that helps us be balanced. When we're going to do a good deed, and we're going to do it consciously, with no, it comes back in other ways. We're also evoking a lot of energy. We're always evoking opposites. We can't get paranoid about it because we're living through it, and this is what it's about. It's very, very powerful. You can even feel it today. You can feel this. And we're a little red today, for the Chinese New Year's, and to give mandarin oranges to strangers, and or even part of giving, seeing someone as whole. Worrying about somebody is a negative form of prayer. That is not helpful. If you are concerned about a loved one or anyone, the world or whatever, do your part to change it. If each persons took up the task of kind of tending to their own garden, it would be a very different world. So today is a very, very powerful day. So observe your thoughts. Call on Metatron to assist you in all things, particularly here on Earth. So I will, maybe I'll do the angels. Let me see. Not sure what next week will be, but it will be, that's for sure. But I think it's time, because there's so much really authentic shifts and changes coming in on the planet. And if we know how to work the energy, the more we know, the better off it'll be, the more accurate it will be. So I'll post this on Facebook and sign up for the Blog Talk Radio, and send me an email if you want me to talk about something that has to do with Venus. Or call. Bye-bye.
Progressive presents Mindflowness with Flo.
Before you lies a beautiful meadow. In that meadow, Progressive Direct has placed its auto insurance rates alongside those of competitors. You select the lowest rate and feel a great sense of calm. A great sense of...
Compare Progressive Direct rates with competitors' rates so you can rest easy. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Vary based on how you buy. Vary based on how you buy. Vary based on how you buy.